So here I am with Peter Berg, and Peter's the proprietor of the hobby shop here, and he's going to has offered to provide us some support for the project that we're running now. Peter.
Hello there, welcome to you all. Welcome to Berg's Hobbies, the shop that's been around for quite a number of years, 50 odd years, and we've built up this shop mainly on the models, and it all relates to scale and proportions, because what we sell here are models of real prototypical trains, planes, boats. Obviously boys can't have them in their house, so we have the models, and this is what it's all about. So throughout the shop, if we can see, we've got the cars, planes, trains, and they're all at different scales and proportions. So now it's time to start and explore the world of scales and proportions.
Thank you. Well, hello men of Marist, this is Mr. Blomfield speaking. This project has several benchmarks, each of which requires you to complete some work and present it for marking. You can read about what's required in your own time and using the rubric. Most importantly, your team is required to actually build a scale model of any transport vehicle of your choice. This includes trains, planes, cars, tanks, ships, basically anything at all. You are permitted to build your model from scratch using any material you want, from timber to milk cartons if you want to. You are also permitted to purchase and build a model such as Peter Berg's shop sells. And actually he's offered to give you a 10% discount if you wish to visit him before the end of June. Most importantly, your team is required to deliver both the model and a portfolio of the work that demonstrates your work on the model and your understanding of how scale diagrams relate to the real object. So now we'll see a range of demonstrations on scale models from both Peter Berg and from Jim Lewis. And at the end of the project itself, Jim Lewis will come out to the school and adjudicate your models at the end of hopefully week 8 and during week 9. So sit back and enjoy some of the descriptions now that you'll see from Jim.
Hi, my name's Jim Lewis and I'm from Berg's Hobbies, and I'm here to give you an overview of a diesel-electric locomotive. Now, the diesel-electric locomotive that we're going to look at is the 44 class, which ran on the New South Wales Government Railway. It was introduced in 1957, and there are still examples running today out there on the tracks. Now, the drawing that you're looking at the moment is a drawing of the actual locomotive that's been produced to a particular scale. So to give you an understanding of what that scale is, I'm going to show you the locomotive reduced to the scale of the drawing. So this is the locomotive. I'll put it there on the drawing, and the scale of that locomotive is 1 in 43.5. So that means that the real locomotive has been reduced by the factor of 43.5. So to give you another example of the same locomotive, we will introduce this scale model, which is, I'll put it down here so that you can see that. It is 1 in 87, so that's, as you can see, between the relationship between the two, it's quite much smaller. It's about a quarter of the size. And a further example of scale is represented by the same locomotive in a slightly different livery, and that particular locomotive is 1 in 160. So there you have the same locomotive in 3 different scales. Scale O, which is 1 in 43.5, shown here. This particular locomotive in 1 in 87, and this smaller locomotive in 1 in 160.
So Jim, practically speaking, you know, when we have a look at a model of 1 to 160, so this small engine there, what does it mean?
Well, it means that it has been reduced in size by a factor of 160 from the real model. And
so if we were to put a ruler and whack that next to this little engine here,
yep.
Which we can get, here it comes. So let's like for
So
ease?
it measures about 112 millimetres
Okay.
overall from one end to the other.
Okay, so that engine is 112 millimetres long. So what does a scale of 160 then do
Well,
for 112 millimetres?
Well, if you were to multiply that by 160,
Yep.
then in theory you would get the size of the real locomotive.
Okay, so we've got three different models, three different scales, and if you multiply, so let's go back to the numbers here. If we measured the large engine and
Yes.
multiplied it by 43.5,
Five.
if we did the middle one and measured that and multiplied it by 87, or this smallest engine and multiplied that by 160, the answer would be?
It'd all be the same.
All be the same. Okay, thanks so much, Jim.
That's right, thank you.
One of the tasks of this project is for you to not only make a model, but then show us a front elevation, an end elevation or a back elevation, and the a side profile and probably a top-down view as well. So here are some examples of those diagrams that Jim just showed us, with the top one being, and the top two there being just the left and right profiles. And this image here is a top-down view of this same locomotive. So what we also have here is three locomotives front on, and we spoke about scale before. It's the same locomotive in three different sizes, or three different scales. And what you can see at, where are we? Just there and there are the front and back profiles, or the diagrams. So you can see here, where are we? Okay, there's our headlights, and there's our headlights there. So that's going to give you it doesn't have to be quite as detailed as that, your diagram, but height and width based on scale and based on whatever size your models are.
This is an example, it's quite an interesting photo here. Here we have the real loco, the prototype loco, and on the buffer beam, just here, you can see the same one in scale. This scale is 1 to 43.5, which in the other photographs was the larger of the three.
So that one there is the largest of the three locomotives we just saw, and?
Correct, it's 1 to 43.5, but when you look at it in proportion to the real one, it's not so big.
No, so if we times that tiny thing by 43.5,
we'll end up with that real one there.
so it really does scale up very quickly, doesn't it?
It does. The proportions go up very quick.
Yeah, it's a great photo. Thank you.
Okay.
Here we have three different scales in an aircraft. The first is a Nighthawk stealth fighter, and that's in a 1 in 32 scale, which
Yep.
is described on the box. Now we have this, again over here we have two other scales of the same aircraft, F-15 Eagle. One is in 1 in 48, which is this one, and this one is 1 in 72. So there you have an example of different scales, 1 in 72, 1 in 48, and 1 in 32.
And on this box here, Jim, I can see length 536.5 millimetres.
That's the length of the model, scaled down from the real one on the ratio 1 in 32.
And I've done a bit of calculations here, and I'll put my phone in front of the camera here. And so what we've got there, try and make it so you can see it. So the 536.5 millimetres times 32, because that's our scale, gives us 17,168 millimetres. So the plane's 17,000 millimetres. You'd have to figure out how many metres that is as part of this project as well. But just to wrap up this project too, as we go through Berg's Hobbies, here's a selection of things you might like to consider making. So we have cars, planes, there's warships out the front, there's down here we've got tanks. So you know, it's a paradise of models here if you chose to make one of these. Of course you don't have to make these, you can make your own model, but your job will be to make something and show us the scale of what you've made on paper and how it might, what the actual measurement of the item you're making is in real life. So my thanks go to Peter Berg, to Jim Lewis, and to Mark down the back here, who's been supervising and helping. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you,
You're
and we
welcome.
look
Thank
forward
you.
to the completed model so we can come and have a look.
Okay, in fact, just to wrap up too, Jim's offered to come out and look at your models and make sure that, well, adjudicate and see how you've gone. See you soon.
Good night.
So there you have it, men of Marist, the Rates and Ratios project for you to get cracking in and get building. My sincere thanks go to Peter Berg and Jim Lewis from Berg's Hobbies for not only spending some time making those videos with me, but also to offer such great support and the offer to come out and have a look at your projects. So get cracking, and I hope you enjoy this project.